Hello, hello.
Hi.
I want to say welcome to Xena Made Me Gay, and technically it is the thing that you're listening to currently, but it's not a regular episode.
It's not a regular episode and we're not in a regular place. First of all, we're not in two different kind of places.
Yes, so far every single episode that we've recorded over the internet while located in two different countries.
Yes. Me, Alice from Austria, Kris from Germany.
Exactly.
And now, it's completely random, but we're in Poland, and this country brought us together, and we want to record a special bonus kind of episode. Yay!
Yes, our numerous fans have been asking,
begging us.
Finally, we've delivered.
Yeah, so how is this gonna work?
How is this gonna work?
We don't know, but...
Is this gonna work?
We don't know.
We don't know that either, no.
We're just gonna wing it.
Yep.
But we wanted to kind of share a little bit more about us, since we realized that all five of us who have been listening to Xena Made Me Gay will know a lot about Xena Warrior Princess universe, but we don't know anything about our dear hosts, Alice and Kris. By the way, hi, I'm Alice.
Hi, I'm Kris.
And today we're gonna tell you more about ourselves. Yay.
In the times of brick phones, Tamagotchis, and curtain bangs, the 90s kids cried out for a badass. She was Xena, the warrior princess. The kicks, the moves, the nostalgia, the queerness. Xena made us gay.
Lovely. Let's do it.
Okay. We already told about the Austrian-Germany situation, but I think that we already mentioned a couple of times that we grew up in Moscow and we grew up together because, fun fact number one, we're actually cousins.
Yes, we're first cousins, and I think often when you say cousins, people assume a more distant relationship. Mm-hmm. I think the way that we grew up, we didn't quite grow up as siblings, but definitely,
very close to that.
Yeah. As far as cousins go, about as closely as one can be. So we lived next to each other pretty much our entire lives until one of us wasn't living in the same country.
Yeah. And we went on family vacations with numerous grandmothers because we grew up in a big Jewish Azeri family, and we were pretty close with a lot of our relatives, and we were pretty close with each other, which was actually super cool because I don't have siblings, and Kris has a little...
2 half siblings.
Yeah. But I would say that I have the privilege of being more of a sibling to Kris.
Yeah.
Of closeness.
Due to different complicated circumstances, I don't really know either of my half siblings that well. So yeah, Alice is definitely the closest person to a sibling that I have in terms of emotional closeness.
Aww. Coming back to Xena, why it was such a big thing in our childhoods, because back then when I was a teenager and Kris was a little goblin, as Kris likes to say.
No, I think 6-7 is about right.
Yes, 6-7. We have a 7-year difference, but that did not prevent us from profoundly enjoying Xena together. And another fun fact, Kris's grandmother recorded the episodes on VHS cassettes, some episodes, and Kris watched it when they were little, and I also watched it because, like, why not? Like, free Xena episodes. But what was absolutely great about it, that Kris's grandmother wanted to sneak in a little culture in this entertaining experience. So she actually recorded a bit of Xena, and then Xena stopped like on some cliffhanger. And then there was a bit of ballet or a bit of opera or other cultural thing that little Kris could enjoy, and then Xena continued, and to this day I find it like absolutely precious.
I was convinced that the reason that happened was that my grandma just wasn't very good at recording things. She had like her own cassettes with classical music, and so she just wanted to reuse them. Why not? And then she would just record an episode of Xena, and then she wouldn't be sure when to start recording the next episode or something. Like I now that I'm saying it, I'm like, no, that doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I just assumed that it was a genuine mistake. And it kept being interrupted by classical music, so I was like, oh well, whatever, yeah. But I mean, my grandma made me listen to a lot of operas and see a bunch of ballets outside of those sneaky inserts, so I don't think that was her only strategy.
But my question is, did you ever like fast forward through them, or did you end up watching all those little pieces?
I don't know. It was such a long time ago that I don't remember.
Okay. But yeah, I would say it's safe to say that the sneaky plan worked. A bit of culture was injected both in Kris and me, so...
Oh, yeah.
Double the effect.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Drifting away from our glorious childhoods, we also wanted to talk about queerness, because that's the other big topic that we're exploring. And I wanted us to talk about our queerness, because we have very strong opinions about that stuff in Xena Warrior Princess, and let's justify those opinions to folks right now.
Let's present our gay cards.
Yes.
I mean, I myself am trans. I'm non-binary. And also I identify as sometimes queer, sometimes pansexual. I don't have a very strong preference. Like, I wouldn't even say no to bisexual, but definitely with a very strong allegiance to the queerness. I don't think of my pansexuality is like a diluted version of queerness, or a light version of queerness.
Is it possible to think of, like, is there such a thing?
I mean, definitely some biphobia comes from that place. It's like, oh, you're like half straight, half gay. Definitely 0% of me is straight. Very happy about that. And yeah, I don't know what else.
Okay, I can take it from here. I would say that mostly I think of myself as bisexual, but yeah, pansexual also works. I think the more important identity for me is that I am a demisexual in terms of, like, I think that I'm more attracted to, not more, but like I can be attracted to people sexually only when I'm in love. And I have been in love with the same people for quite a long time now, so I am polyamorous. I live in a throuple. I have a husband and a wife, like boyfriend and girlfriend, but like we have been living together for ages and ages, so right now boyfriend and girlfriend sounds a bit silly. So yeah, that's also a big part of my identity that I was forced to conceal, mostly by myself, for a long time, because up until 2022 I was living in Moscow, where I was out to my family, I was out to my close friends, but I was definitely closeted at work and with most of my acquaintances, with my theater groups that I was in, and that sucked. And I really am enjoying this newfound openness. Hence the idea to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah, and we have very different experiences in that regard, because I left Russia about 13 years ago, and so I essentially never lived in Russia as an adult. And therefore, I mean, not therefore, but it also contributed to the fact that I was pretty much never in the closet. As soon as I knew who I was, everyone else knew who I was.
That's a better way to live.
Yes, I would recommend if you're in a place where it's safe to do. I went to college, to university in the States, in a really liberal environment, which I think a lot of colleges in the US are. So that was a very easy experience for a baby queer like me.
Aw, that's great. And it's really great that we're both in this place right now. Also, knowing that we're cousins, a lot of people, when they kind of get to know me and Kris a little bit, like if they're from more my side of the friend group, they're like, well, so did you influence Kris in any way? Like, introduced Kris to queerness? And actually, no, luckily we're queer all on our own, and just at some point we came out to each other.
Right, and I think actually in some respects when it comes to gay culture, I was the one introducing you.
Yes,
like I took you to your first ever Pride Parade.
Yes, and drag show and all of those other wonderful things.
And your second ever Pride Parade, I think, and your third ever Pride Parade.
was the parade in Montreal?
That was the first ever.
Yeah. So yeah. Was it your first ever or not? No.
I think it might have been, but like I was taking you to it. I was like,
definitely your idea.
Let me bring you to my people, even though at that point you were out and I was not.
Yes.
I was in that weird space that I think lots of queer people go through, where I was like, oh, I'm just really interested in gay everything, not because I myself am gay. Unfortunately, I'm not, but I'm just really interested as just like an observer for some reason.
Casually.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think for a long time, I was in a place where, yes, I happened to be queer, also because we kind of came to our polyamory situation all on our own. Like, I think also people have been asking me, like, when did you decide to be polyamorous? And that's not something that we decided. It was a very complicated love triangle that turned into a polyamorous relationship of many years.
But wouldn't you say that at some point you decided?
We decided to live together, but I didn't even know the word until there was like some obscure comic about polyamorous living that had nothing to do with our lives, but that there we got some lingo from. And we knew that like Mayakovsky had something like that, and a few other...
I don't think our listeners would know who
Okay.
this person is.
Famous Russian poet Vladimir Mayakovsky was rumored, like not even rumored, like it's pretty definite that he had some sort of like arrangement. We don't know what exactly it was with like a man and a woman, but the way that it was portrayed, always it was like, oh my god, the incredible suffering of that and like the complications and everything, and like for a long time in my head was like, oh, is it possible to have a relationship of three people without incredible suffering? Turns out, yes, it is.
Yes. I mean, also, I don't know whether it's okay to disclose that, but my dad and your uncle has been in a polyamorous relationship for I don't know how long at this point,
Yes.
25 years?
Yes. He was there first.
Yes, so actually you knew that it was possible to
Yeah,
have that without suffering.
It's so interesting, like this tunnel vision that internal homophobia bestows on you. Like, I hope that now I don't have it, but like I think I had a lot of it, not in terms of like, oh, I hate myself and it's sinful to be gay, like that sort of thing. I never had that, but I always was aware that what we're doing in our family is like against the society norms, and being like a good girl all my life, I desperately wanted to fit the society norms. So in my head was like, oh, it's okay to conceal it. Oh, it's okay to like, oh, if we see something like that in other people, like I'm sure that that's not something that we have, or like I don't want to admit that that's something that we have. Like what you're saying is logical, but for some reason that logic just didn't work in my head up until some point.
Yeah, and like obviously I knew about other queer people. Like I think for a lot of especially older queer people, the problem is like, oh, am I the only person in the entire universe who feels this thing? It must be that. I don't understand how it could have happened, because it doesn't to anyone else. And I definitely wasn't like that. I remember being aware of the existence of queer people, of queer women, from a super young age. And yet I just completely ignored my own queerness. I was like, well, yeah, everyone finds women attractive. They're gorgeous and beautiful, and everyone wants to look at them and sometimes look at them naked. Isn't that just kind of how everyone rolls?
No, it's funny how we kind of have that closed box in our heads.
Yeah.
So coming back, I think, to pride parades and other things that you introduced me to, I think like at the first pride parade, I was like, oh, it's so cool. Also, it has nothing to do with me. Although I also was already queer, and like
you're already in a queer relationship.
Queer relationship, yeah. But for some reason, I was like, it has nothing to do with me. It's like, it's great, but like not my thing. And I think it was years after, and it was in a gay bar in Berlin when I came to visit Kris, and we went to a drag show, and there were like people like hugging and kissing around me, and I was like, I desperately want that community and that openness and be among those people, and it sucks that I kind of don't have that opportunity in Moscow. And also, like, I think if I wanted to, I could go to like a gay bar in Moscow. It definitely was available, but for some reason my anxiety about being closeted there kind of would not let me.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, that got really dark. Let's talk about Xena.
Sure.
Yeah. So our podcast is called Xena Made Me Gay.
Yes, as far as I remember.
Yes. And I don't know if we can, in all seriousness, say that like Xena is the thing that made us gay, but maybe we can talk a little bit how Xena and our own queerness kind of intertwine.
Yeah, I mean, so again, because we have a 7-year difference, it was different for the two of us, where for me, there was, at that point at the age of 6, 7, almost no awareness of sexualities as distinct, separate categories. So I didn't necessarily think of people as straight or gay. But I definitely thought of Xena and Gabrielle as together, as being together in some way. And I kind of accepted that as enough of an explanation of whatever was happening. And I think there was a good aspect to it and a bad aspect to it. Insofar as I think that was a little bit unhelpful in terms of me processing my own identity and my own sexuality. Of course, at the age of 6, 7, like, there's no hurry. But I certainly was attracted to girls and women at that time already. And I just dismissed it because I didn't have... I don't know what I didn't have, but somehow my brain refused to categorize that as anything other than, well, duh, of course. Beautiful women. Everyone's interested in that.
Yeah.
But then the good thing was this early way to connect to my queerness, even on a subconscious level, and see it celebrated and see it portrayed in this aspirational way, I would say, which is something that a lot of queer kids don't get until adulthood. And for that, I'm very grateful. But for you, it was definitely a lot more explicit how gay Xena was. Not only, I think, because of your own understanding, but because of the forum.
Yeah, the forum. It's really interesting because, it was like the early days of internet in Russia, and I went to a couple of chat rooms. We all did that back then. And I ended up on Xena Warrior Princess forum, and the forum was extremely lesbian. And like always, like in the internet, like you don't know people's ages, you don't know where they come from. I would guess that most of them were pretty young people, but not as young as I was. Like I was about 14, 15 maybe. And I had my own understanding of like cool things in Xena. I know you already know that, like I had a lot of crushes on a lot of male characters.
And you were constantly thinking about the Roman Empire.
And I was constantly thinking about the Roman Emperor, as in the biggest crush was on Julius Caesar, because like when people were into dinosaurs, like teenagers were into dinosaurs, my dinosaurs were the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar. He was like my favorite T-Rex that I like to dissect. Like at some point, and my parents were very encouraging. At some point they like bought me every single biography of Julius Caesar there was in the store. A lot of them were repetitive because like it's not that there was so many sources, but like I got a lot of fun out of it. But I think I got on the nerves on fabulous lesbian women in the Xena forum because I constantly was talking about Julius Caesar. I think I even got told off once or twice. Like, okay, we get it. You really like him. And at that point, like since I was a regular, I remember like walking into the chat room, like it was close to New Year's Eve, and there was like little graphic snow in the chat room. And I was like, oh, hey, hi, everyone. And everyone was like, oh, the straight cookie. Hi.
Straight
like,
cookie?
Like, I don't know, like straight babe, straight something. There was like straight insert pet nickname. I'm like, oh, okay, that's me, I guess. So my understanding of Xena at that time was very weird in terms of like, I think I already mentioned that I tried to deny all of the not so subtle subtext in the show because it seemed to me that that's very that's kind of like a fantasy of those who are watching it. So that's
wishful
like
thinking.
a wishful thinking, and also I think at that point, in a lot of places that I hang out online, and maybe that's not a coincidence, but further down the line we would discover that there was this interest in taking Harry Potter, for example, and making all the characters gay, and like writing fanfic about Harry Potter and Voldemort and Dumbledore and everyone. And I really disliked it. I was like, this is not what the author intended.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a little snob back then also.
Yeah, unlike now.
I said also.
Okay.
That's why I think that for a long time I was like, no, this is just like wishful thinking and fic writers obscuring what is actually happening on Xena Warrior Princess.
Right.
And I think only upon the second rewatch I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it's not wishful thinking. No.
And how aware were you of your own queerness at that point?
When I was denying the subtext in
Yeah.
Xena, not really, but I now think that it could have been some sort of like a pushback against my own queerness also. I think that like I was so keen on not seeing the obvious that it's suspicious, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah. So complicated with
yeah, so even though the podcast is called Xena Made Me Gay, when I was watching it, I was not aware of my own queerness and vaguely aware of Xena's queerness. And when you were watching it, you weren't aware of either of the two.
And actively denying it.
Yep.
Should we change the name?
Despite Xena, we became gay. A little less catchy, don't you think?
Yeah. The thing is that we wanted to tell you something, but of course it's like when you sit in front of the microphone and like, oh, you need to tell something to the listeners. Oh, I do that. Okay. So I pulled up like a get to know you 21 question sort of like 21 questions for new relationship.
Yeah.
No, our relationship is definitely not new.
We have known each other for 30 years.
Yeah.
I wonder how new that is.
Yeah.
What kind of an anniversary is that?
I don't want to think about it. So yeah, let me give you a number. Okay, from 1 to 21.
Wow, the original 13.
13. If you could relive any part of your life so far, which part would you choose and why?
Ooh, I was actually thinking about that recently.
Huh.
Like, is there a period of my life that is like the happiest, or the period when I felt the safest, the most cared for, and I couldn't come up with anything, which either is really sad or is just really consistent.
Or it's really great, you don't want to live in the past.
Well, yeah, I suppose. So I think I would interpret this question differently, and I would answer it as in, if I could relive a particular moment.
Okay.
And just kind of do it all over again. And it's very hard to answer this question without thinking, oh, what would I relive and change? So regrets and situations where I didn't act the way that I wish I acted, that is very easy to come up with. In terms of just great experiences to relive, I had the pleasure and privilege of performing on a stage not so long ago.
Aww.
And it was exciting, it was exhilarating, it was something that I really want to do again. I haven't had the chance to as of yet, but if I could relive that, absolutely, I would take it.
In this version, if we know that you're reliving that, I need to be there. Yeah, because I think I know what you're talking about, and I would really want to be there to witness it. Yeah, it's hard to kind of find something that you want to relive. For me, it really is a little bit like, oh, it was great then, it's not so great now. We were talking about it with my wife recently, and we were like, for all of the shit that comes with adult life, we would never, like, we're both in our late 30s now, we would never trade our 30s for our 20s, for example. Like, I would not want to come back. Like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, some things were easier, but in terms of like peace of mind and dealing with my stuff and like the mental capacity that I have right now, as opposed to me in my 20s riddled with anxiety, I would never want to go back. In terms of reliving something and not changing it, I would also maybe choose something connected with the stage. I was in a children's theater when I was a child, and it also was not always easy, but I would be curious to relive like a day of 11-year-old me also performing on stage, and to kind of remember how that was, but more for nostalgic reasons.
Aww, that's cute. All right, now you pick a number.
Okay, 19.
What is the healthiest and unhealthiest thing you do regularly?
Okay, that's easy. Okay, the healthiest, and I would, like, maybe it's cheating, but I would say the healthiest thing that I do not do, I do not consume alcohol at all. And
cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Like, Kris has some cider to celebrate it. I have black tea. Yeah, and it's not like, because especially in Russia when I shared it, they're like, oh my god, like, are you ill or something? Like, it's not an illness. I just don't like the taste, and I never liked it, so I never started drinking. And I would assume that that kind of makes me a little healthier than the average person. And the unhealthy thing to do, I do a lot, but I would go on a limb and say, like, overworking myself is the most unhealthy thing that I do.
Yes, can confirm. Can confirm.
Okay, your turn.
In terms of the healthiest thing, I would say that I do sports quite regularly, not to any like intense extent, but you know, I go bouldering a couple of times a week, and so I'm in okay shape, I would say. Probably that's the healthiest thing. And the unhealthiest thing is my intense self-criticism tendency. Nothing is ever good enough. That's, I think, the unhealthiest.
For sure.
21.
If you found out that your current life has been only a dream, okay, would you choose to wake up or stay in it?
Oh, so I'm in the Matrix.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, like which pill?
Yes. I mean, as a person who adores the Matrix, so thinking of things that made me gay,
Aww.
I think, so Xena definitely was one of them, but the Matrix absolutely was one of them. One of the things that like shaped me as a person, I think. That when I saw it, it was like a revelation. Like, I have literal goosebumps right now talking about it. Generally, that predisposes me to choosing to wake up. But it's interesting that the question doesn't tell you anything about what you will wake up to.
I think that's the rules. Like, you wake up and then there's something completely different.
Well, yes, but I guess in the Matrix, Neo is kind of at least taken in by Morpheus, who explains a little bit about.
He tries to explain a little bit, but that doesn't even come close to what Neo faces, right?
That's true. Well, fuck it. Yeah, red pill it is. Yeah. I'm waking up. I'm checking out whatever it is. I mean, I do love my life the way it is, but I can't let those machines win.
Okay. So you're fighting for humanity.
Yeah.
That's good because I'm not waking up.
You're not?
No.
You're staying in the Matrix?
I'm staying in the Matrix 100%.
Okay.
I remember also watching the Matrix, and there's this evil guy in the Matrix that he has that speech at some point, like, if I knew what it really was, I would like throw this red pill in Morpheus' face or something like that. And I'm like, yep, I'm that, definitely. Especially when Neo wakes up and like I see what they're eating. I'm like, oh my god, I never want to wake up.
Yeah. But you were never a fan of the Matrix.
No, that's another thing.
Didn't work for you somehow. No, as soon as I saw all the latex and the leather, I was like,
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask you, maybe not now, maybe like for the future discussions or something like that. Just tell me what is gay about the Matrix, because I think I don't get it.
Oh, sweetie.
Sorry.
We will talk about it extensively. Dear listener, we need to pause for about 3 hours.
That's what we're gonna discuss somewhere in a bar tonight.
Yes, for sure. For the remainder of this Poland trip.
Okay. Plan made. 5.
Who is/was the most influential person in your life?
Oh God.
Yeah. Go.
I would be...
And I would say, just to make it more interesting,
Okay.
let's exclude family members.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted to say my mom.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
It makes sense.
But
yeah. Excluding family members, the most influential person in my life. Because, like, what do we count as influential? Like, something that they said or did.
maybe there was a fictional character that made you gay.
Julius Caesar?
Oh, no!
Yeah, I would exclude family in terms of, like, I would exclude my partners also, of course, like, they have
I think so.
great influence, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a different thing. I would say, coming back to my childhood, as I mentioned, I was in a children's theater, and there was a theater director there. In a very closed environment, we were all very influenced by him. He was a very charismatic figure. I kind of got to witness his process in terms of how he crafted our shows, and he always kind of treated us like adult actors, which was good and bad because they really demanded a lot from us, but I really got to be inside that process of like creating a play, and that made me, first of all, a theater fan for the rest of my life. And I think that a lot of the things that I know about creativity kind of come from that place and from that person's process. So I would say Alexander Alexandrovich. Yeah.
Nice. I think for me, it's a fairly easy question because I grew up essentially with a person in my life who was there with me through everything from the age of 6, I think, to 17. We We did everything together all of the time. We went to the same school. At that school, we were each other's only friends, I think. So the way that school works in Russia is that you go to the same school with the same people in your class, grade 1 to grade 11. So you start at 6 or at 7, you end at 17, 18.
That is if you don't move countries like I did.
Well, yes. That's why I said in Russia.
Yeah.
And so we spend those 11 years together, and together again, not just going to the same school, but constantly talking and constantly sharing things and going through the changes and developments of a young person's life together. And sometimes she would find an interest, and I would know nothing about it, but just because she was interested, I was like, it must be great. It must be worthy of my attention. Let me try to get into that. And I did it with so many things. I can't even count them. And some of them did end up being like genuine interests of mine. And I have never felt bored with this person. I don't think anyone has seen me from so many different points of view and in so many different situations and experiencing all kinds of different emotions. And yeah, that's why it's very, very easy to say that it was her. Yeah, I think if there's one thing that I could choose to relive, that was a relationship. That was our relationship throughout those years, because it was just such a constant source of joy and support and curiosity and just anything that one would hope to get from a friendship. So much so that when we were about 11, someone started a rumor about us in school that we were lesbians. And, kind of guilty, but not with each other. Despite being incredibly close and despite the unrelated queerness, it was always... I wanted to say just a friendship, but it seems to be doing a disservice to the kind of friendship that it was. So, Sawyer, I love you, and would relive that whole thing in a heartbeat. Sawyer listens to this podcast, so
yes, and it's super great, and it really is such a rare thing to carry that long of a friendship. I don't know many people who have friends who they started to be friends with in the first grade and they're still so close, because usually people grow apart. So yeah, you guys are awesome.
We started in the second grade. In the first grade, Sawyer low-key hated me.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
But then in the second grade, she gave me a second chance, and thankfully I didn't fuck it up.
So I think that's a good way to end.
That's a great way to end.
Yes.
So thank you for indulging our little experiment. Hope this was at least as interesting for you as our regular episodes. And if not, our regular episodes are going to come back.
Definitely.
Next time.
We're not going to do it a lot. But if you happen to like it and you want to know more...
do also let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We have our Instagram, Xena Made Me Gay. So drop us a line.
All right. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.